Hey, CityCast listeners, it's Megan. If you've been to the Strip, gosh, in the last 10 years, you know a lot has changed. And in a lot of ways, the anchor to all that is the Strip District Terminal. The historic 5-block building used to be the source for all the produce in Pittsburgh. And now it's an all-day destination for shopping, dining, working out, and more. There's the market on Saturdays, performances on Sundays, parking and retail discounts on Tuesdays. Check it all out for yourself in person and at stripdistrictterminal.com. Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, there's been a fun back and forth lately about how many city police officers are technically enough city police officers. We've got a fun recommendation for locals on, of all things, a Facebook group. And it's really hot outside, but do you know what it takes to actually call it a heat wave? It's July 28th, the Friday News Roundup. I'm Megan Harris, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with CityCast Mallory Falk. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Brittany Haler, the director of the Pittsburgh Institute for Nonprofit Journalism. I did it.
Hello.
Such a mouthful, your title.
It is.
How's everybody doing with the heat?
I'm awake. I'm here.
Yeah, getting through it.
I don't like it. I'm a summer person, and this is still like not cool.
Yeah,
Literally.
Exactly. No, it's too much. But do you think that these past few days have actually qualified as a heat wave?
I thought the premise for us talking about this was yes, but from your face, I can't tell now.
Tell us, Mallory.
Well, I thought yes, because to count as a heat wave, you need to hit 3 days in a row with temperatures at or above 90 degrees.
Oh.
But yesterday, my phone said 89.
You know what? Mine too. I was watching because I knew that we were going to be talking about this.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we just missed it.
Is 90 then the threshold?
Yeah, 90 is the threshold.
Is it different then for different parts of the country? Because I don't know. I mean, 90 in Pittsburgh is one thing, but 90 somewhere else, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that definition is specific to Pittsburgh. I have to imagine that, like in the Southwest, maybe there's a higher threshold.
Right. I mean, just visiting, I've been through like 120-degree days in Tucson, Arizona. Like the 90s down there are probably balmy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's for here specifically. And the temperature is supposed to drop this weekend. So hopefully this heat should be breaking soon.
Well, how does the National Weather Service measure temperature here? Do they have like gauges in different places?
I called up meteorologist Lee Hendricks with the National Weather Service, and he said that both here and nationally, a lot of it is based on airport data. It's measured at airports. Mm-hmm. So here that would be Pittsburgh International plus the Allegheny County Airport. And then there's some citizen volunteers who also check in, but it's mainly those airport measurements. And so he did say that if you're in the city, it's likely like 5 to 7 degrees hotter because we're surrounded by all this asphalt.
Yeah, the concrete, the buildings. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I ask, where is Allegheny Airport? Is that different?
It's like close to West Mifflin, like in the Mon Valley-ish.
Oh.
Ish.
Didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
I didn't until this phone call with the meteorologist.
Like, who flies out of that? What is that?
That's what we used before Pittsburgh International was built. And they actually had now they do the 5K at Pittsburgh International, but they started it at the Allegheny County Airport, which was super cool. Like you were running a 5K on the runways as planes were taking off.
Wow.
When is the last time that we had an official heat wave?
I was going to ask if anyone had guesses. Turning this into a little quiz.
The summer of the pandemic, like when it first started, seemed really miserable, but I actually have no idea if it qualified.
I feel like that was the hottest summer of my life was 2020. I swear to God.
But was that because we were trapped?
Yeah.
But you're not wrong. You're right.
Wait,
that was the most
really
recent heat wave was in the summer of 2020. We had 8 consecutive days above 90 back in July 2020.
I paid $300 for an inflatable pool in the parking lot of a Walgreens where the lady basically like shoved it across the parking lot like a bank deal. And I was so desperate for water, like, and we had no pools to go to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so I
closed.
paid $300 for a giant adult inflatable pool for my front yard.
Yeah, because I
still have
remember
it?
there was
Yeah.
there was a shortage. There was a
Yes,
run on
yes.
inflatable pools,
Yep.
and no one could get their hands on them.
And then we lived like kings.
What about the longest recorded heat wave in the Pittsburgh area?
yeah, so that was actually a while ago in the 80s. It was in 1988. That's when the record was set, 13 days from July 4th to 16th. And it got up to 103 was the hottest day.
An auspicious year indeed.
The year our esteemed host, Megan Harris, was born
The year I graced our planet. Yes.
and brought the heat.
Always bringing the heat. Okay, so the city proper, and I assume like the cultural district downtown would be like the worst because of all the buildings, is the hottest. Is there anywhere that's like cooler to be?
So I did ask Lee about that. He didn't have a specific place to mention, but he says that, you know, sometimes if you're in like a little valley, that can remain cool because it's not getting direct sunlight and it can trap some cooler air. So like the north side of a hill, he said, is your best bet for
The
staying
north
cool.
side of a hill. I don't.
I wish you could
This
see
is
the
what
face.
the
I just
expert told
cocked
us.
my head and
You look like one of those cute puppies.
what? How does one determine that? I guess a compass.
I guess you got to like find a valley.
Or yeah, like what direction is the sun at this moment?
I guess one of you should have been on the call. I just took it at face value and was like, cool, north side of a hill. I'll share this information.
That makes sense. I will report this.
The next time I'm on the north side of a hill, I will let you know, Mallory.
I thought you were going to say the north side, like, and then the sentence continued.
Well, I feel like I keep hearing like Pittsburgh's supposed to be like a decent location for like climate refugees, at least by the heat metric. Because like right now the Southwest seems kind of unlivable.
I think just like in comparison to other places, you know, like I've mentioned on the show before, I lived in El Paso, Texas for a while. And I think that's a city that's really on like the tipping point of becoming unlivable. Do you want to guess how many days in a row they've had triple digit weather this summer, a streak that hasn't been broken yet?
This is bleak.
Yeah.
15.
Higher.
25.
Brittany's face.
You know, it's much higher.
Really?
60?
Not quite that
Okay.
high.
42.
At this point, it's been 43 days.
So by Price is Right rules, I win.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I just like, I can't imagine. My last summer there broke me. It made me so grateful for Pittsburgh rain in a way I never thought I would be. And I do think like, I do feel like I left a city that like people aren't going to be able to live in at some point for a place that feels like, I don't know, a more reasonable place to kind of build a life and build a future. So.
Mallory, you also lived in New Orleans, which also is it like potentially going to be livable because of the water table?
I think
Are
all
you-
the time about moving back there. But like when I was thinking about coming back to Pittsburgh, one of the check marks was the fact that it feels insulated from some of the extreme weather that other parts of the country are seeing and other places I've lived in are seeing.
I grew up in Southern Maryland on an island and then lived in North Carolina for a while and then moved here. Everyone in the South was like, ooh, Pittsburgh snow, like extreme weather.
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, everyone was like, it's really mild here, honestly. And I would say that's true.
I came here the winter of polar vortex.
Me too.
So,
Yeah.
that was a really rough
I was
winter.
like, they lied. And then
But everything since then has been pretty cake.
like I have not seen substantial snow here ever.
Yeah.
Like I have never
cold
been,
temperatures.
Yes.
But
Right, and I
not,
think-
not super snowy.
And I remember a lot of snow from when I was a kid, and it's like that feels like it's changed. I mean, it was obviously never like Minnesota here, but I think the winters have gotten a lot milder since
I think
when I was a
maybe
little
the
kid
most
here.
snow I've had since living here 10 years is like 8 inches or something. I mean, someone should fact check that, I guess. But I mean, it's not like I've never had to shovel myself out of my house or anything even close to that. You know?
By that barometer, yes, I think we're all pretty fortunate.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Pittsburgh is, doing better this summer than a lot of parts of the country and the world. But obviously, this heat, it's still a lot. It can still get very dangerous. So, I do want to shout out the fact that the city has cooling centers open through today from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. for folks who need that. In Beachview, Brighton Heights, Greenfield, Homewood, Sheridan, and the South Side. And then city parks, recreation centers with air conditioning. Some of those locations will also be open. And we'll include a list of all of that in our show notes.
So if you listen to our show every day, you may have heard about this police staffing survey that came out earlier this month. It asked current officers a bunch of stuff about training and morale and job satisfaction. WPXI had an interesting rundown of some of the results of that. If you want to check it out, we'll put it in the show notes. But it also made some suggestions about how many police officers these researchers think we need. Do y'all know how many uniformed police officers we currently have in Pittsburgh?
I do from editing newscasts, but that doesn't feel fair, so I'll turn it over to Brittany.
I also might know, I think.
Okay.
787, is
That's
that right?
how many we have.
Oh, okay.
We are budgeted for 900
yes.
and have been for decades.
Yes.
And the percentage of actual city employees I thought was really interesting too. So there's 900 budgeted positions. We only have 3,400 city employees total.
Oh,
wow.
So it's like a huge chunk of our city, like people employed by the city.
Somehow doesn't totally surprise me.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just not something I'd like seen the numbers on before. And I went a little too far on my Googling. Do y'all know how much money that represents?
No.
I looked into 20 years of city budget data. I got to say, props to the city departments for figuring out things like pagination over the last 20 years. There's been a lot of updates in how we upload our PDFs to the city websites, and I'm just really grateful that we've come as far as we have. If you include our debt service, which they lump under the finance department, the police represents about $118 million, which is by far the largest line item in our city budget, like our operating budget.
As compared to, like, what's another branch or thing that we've, like, can we have a comparison?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Let's see. Office of the Mayor, for example, 2023 budget is $4.7 million.
Wow.
A lot fewer people, though.
But I just...
Yeah. City Council is
priorities.
$3 million. Let's see. Our finance department, again, they get lumped in with our debt service, so that's why they're bigger. But like any department could have swallowed the debt service. Like there's no reason why it has to be finance. Is $184 million. I'm rounding, obviously.
Wow.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. I think the next closest one is the Bureau of Fire is $94.6 million. Which also has a whole lot of people.
So then going back to this survey, what exactly did it find?
It found that we have enough police officers, but we should probably restructure some of them to move folks off patrol and into specialized units, which our new police chief, Larry Scarrato, he agrees that we probably need more people in specialized units. He did not agree that we have enough police officers.
Can you give us some examples of specialized units? Like what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Yeah, like missing persons, sex assault, narcotics. There's a ton of different ones.
And so you said Scarrato does not agree with this assessment.
No, he called it a good baseline, like a nice to have, but they want all 900 people. But how they get to those 900 always sort of fascinated me. I really like people math.
So, I mean, he wants 900. We're not there yet. But I remember you mentioning there's like a new police academy class that's starting soon.
It started this week. Yeah. It's the first one since before the pandemic. Like they put them on hold. I actually had a buddy that was in the fire academy at the time, and they kept having to stop class because people would be exposed. So it took so much longer for him to get through the fire academy than it was supposed to. But yeah, there's one that started this past Monday. There's one starting in November, and there's another one that's still in the planning stages for early 2024. The test for that one is actually this week. I think it's today. And so usually they get 30 to 40 candidates per class. But guess how many people are currently eligible for retirement? They can file twice a year. I think that's like a union rule. So they get some heads up that these people are going to retire. But yeah, want to take a guess?
100?
150? I have nothing really to base this on.
Well, there's 787.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And people can retire from the police bureau after 20 years.
So is it much higher? Are we talking like half the force?
It's a good third of the force, the current force. Yeah, it's 236
Wow.
officers that are eligible for retirement, which, you can do in your early 40s. Actually, Police Chief Larry Scarato did. He retired, he left for another position, and now he's back.
So that brings us down to, well, if they all retired.
They won't, obviously.
Right.
You have to be financially positioned to
Yes.
be able to retire. Or you can go to another position. What a lot of people do is they'll retire from the city and they'll go to another borough for a different job that's a little less risky. Maybe the pay is a little bit better. Some people leave police departments here and everywhere and maybe go seek elected office. So you can actually get technically double pension. That's a thing that some people have done in Pennsylvania.
So then, I don't know, does Scarato, he wants that 900. I mean, who ultimately makes the call about whether, given the results of this study, who decides whether to kind of go with the study that's saying we're already have enough and they should get, and some of them should get moved, or we're going to stick with this 900 number?
I mean, the study was commissioned by the mayor, but it compared us to a lot of other cities. It's not something that anyone has to act on. It's just more information to have. I do think it was funny that it was one of the 2022 goals to complete it. And then now that it's complete and we have a new chief, they're like, yeah, cool, chill. I don't care. We're budgeted for 900. We've always been budgeted for 900, at least in the 21st century. So now they're just like, no, we're going to stick with this. Thanks.
If he's saying we have 900, we have roughly 800. Where is he? Where do the 100 have to be?
Yeah.
Where is it that they're not doing their
there's a
job,
hole.
that
Yeah.
we're in crisis? Where do these 100 guys have to go?
Guys, that's the pivotal point, right? They have to out-hire the retirements. So I think he said on average, it's between 35 and 50 people retire a year. When the academies are up and rolling, they're bringing on 25 to 35 people per academy. So they just have to keep the academy moving, and they'll schedule more academy classes as they need them. So we have 3 either started or in the works right now, but we didn't have any for 3 years, which is why we're a little lower than maybe we were before. It also means that our overtime numbers have gone way up. We're budgeted for $17 million in overtime just for the police department.
Because that's what I was going to ask. I think kind of connected to that is if he's saying we're 100 short, what's been the consequence? What things aren't getting done because there's not those 100 people there to fill it. But it sounds like maybe it is getting done, just requiring overtime.
Requiring overtime, which is something that the police union, Bob Swartzwelder, has talked a lot about. He's getting tons and tons and tons of overtime notices. He told WESA that either the study is invalid or that police command is, quote, mismanaging its force. I think he meant the first one, but he was trying to make a point.
I mean, so do we know anything about the composition of this newest class? Is it all going to kind of be white dudes?
Mostly, yep.
Yeah.
And has been for a long time. I think he said it was 10% female, 10% people of color, at least as they identified. And that's among the 30. And that's pretty, that's about what the Bureau at large is. Obviously, we're 50-50 in the city by gender, and we have about 25% who identify as Black. Fun fact, have y'all ever heard actually of the 1+1+1+1 rule here in Pittsburgh?
I haven't.
It always breaks my brain to try to say that. It's this hiring rule that we had in the 70s and 80s and part of the 90s, where the federal court had ordered City of Pittsburgh to improve our diversity in the police force by hiring recruits in groups of 4. So it had to be 1 Black man, 1 Black woman, 1 white woman, and 1 white man. And other races could be part of that too. It helped a lot, but then it was deemed unconstitutional in 1991. And our diversity numbers were so bad by 2012 that the ACLU sued the city over our lack of diversity. That suit was settled in 2015 and included changing some of our hiring practices, but the city clearly has not cracked the code on this. The chief, Larry Scarato, says that diversity is one of his top priorities in the coming years.
I did learn about this from Brenda Tate. Do you know who she is?
No.
She is a retired police officer who worked in the Hill District for years and years and years. She walked a beat there for 30 years or something.
Yeah.
And she was hired under the 1+1+.
And that's the problem is that so many of the people that were hired under this are now eligible for retirement or have already retired. So every single year that passes, our diversity numbers get worse and worse and worse because all the people that were brought in under this are now leaving us.
Yep. Brenda Tate is a pillar in her community and awesome. And she's retired now. And she still kind of is unofficially walking the beat in the hill. But yeah.
We need folks like that.
We need more Brenda Tates.
Totally. then lastly, Brittany, I think you were bringing us a little touch of joy for this week. What you got?
Good. Well, as you know, I have a 5-month-old.
You do?
Yes.
He's real cute in pictures.
He is very cute and chubby. But I was invited to a Facebook group that's called Pittsburgh Parents, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And in it is just on like a list of announcements of cool things to do in the city with your kid. And they can be free or they cannot be free. But I'm discovering a new Pittsburgh, and it's been super fun and exciting for me, even though my kid is only 5 months old and can't participate in any of the things that we're doing.
It's not really for him.
Yeah, no, it's for me.
He's a really cute football right now. I am floored that your recommendation is a Facebook group.
Yes.
In this, the year of our Lord 2023.
I know, but Twitter is dead.
You mean X?
Yes.
What kinds of recommendations are you getting on this Facebook page? Sell me on it.
So one of the things, which is kind of silly but also cool, is the State Department was asking parents to count fireflies once a week with their kids.
Cute.
Again, my 5-month-old is not doing this, but I am like
Now you're
fantasizing about when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also made me notice fireflies, like just something I probably wouldn't have sought and done. And like I'm laying in my house and looking out, I'm like counting fireflies, you know, I don't know. It's just kind of making the world more magical again. I also went to the Children's Museum for the first time.
I've never been.
Did you know that the 3rd floor is a water park?
No.
What?
It's an indoor water extravaganza. It is amazing.
I also have a very adorable football. He's 8 months old, closing in on 9. But no, I've never experienced that.
Speaking of heat, it's probably going to be packed, but
It's a nice indoor spot.
It's indoor. There's like, you can drop buckets of water. There's water that comes from the ceiling and comes down. Like you can just play around. I think he's probably at an age where you could sit him on something and he'll just splash and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, we're real good at that.
Yeah, he would probably still be entertained in there.
Wait,
My
is that why
son
that
was
big,
not.
enormous fish is like the fish statue is outside the Children's Museum? I've always wondered why.
I don't know.
Don't look at me. I don't know the answer to these questions.
It's awesome in there, but I did not know the whole. So bring a bathing suit. My great aunt was like, "Oh, you're going to the Children's Museum. Bring a bathing suit." And I was like, "Has she lost her mind?" But in fact, there is a mini water park up on the top floor.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. They the Center of Reuse.
Creative reuse?
Yes.
Yeah.
They do like free craft nights for kids that you can like go and make a craft. And I think they partner with the East End Co-op or something.
Cool.
And then I don't know if you have to be invited to see these things though.
Oh, well, if anyone needs the hookup, we know Brittany's
I'm
the place
there,
to go.
so just email me. Also, this is a side note. I have noticed the water steps on the north side is basically like a pool.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't know that.
Which I think is kind of gross personally, but there's just always some like vague trash
There
and
is
goose
vague
poop
tra- yes,
there.
that's true.
And it's like, it's
super true.
great. It's really nice. It could be good. I wish they'd power wash it occasionally.
Yes. But I kind of like, it's so Pittsburgh to me. Like I didn't know about that. And then I was like, we are resourceful people here. Like we will just get it done. And
Yeah. If there's a water feature to be found, the Point Fountain is another good example.
Yes.
Like people just jump right in.
Yep. I'm gonna stick my baby in that. It's so hot.
As long as you're not putting your baby in the mon, I think we're good.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Our music is by Benji. Mallory Falk is our lead producer. The show is produced this week by Maria Carter and Noah Snyderman. Francesca DeBecco writes our newsletter, and I'm your host, Megan Harris. We'll be back on Monday with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Have you flown out of Latrobe?
No, have you?
Oh my God, yes.
Is it good?
Oh yeah.
I
There's
mean,
a
that's-
restaurant. It's like basically the airport is an Italian restaurant. And then there's a gate next to it. And you can fly to Florida for like $30 or something.